G'day guys, Kerry here, and today I want to talk about something I've been playing with for the last couple of months, and that is the 3M Peltors. These are the EEP-100EU in-ears. So these are a active in-ear, so they provide hearing protection, but also they're active in that they have microphones on them and they actually amplify levels or the ambient sound and feed it into your ear. So you're probably familiar with things like the Sport-Tac and the other models, which I forget models of them at the moment, which are active. I've had them for years and loved them. The downside has been that they are all earmuffs, and I find when shooting off a lot of stocks or chassis rifles that those earmuffs sit on the side of a chassis. The gun, when it shoots, recoils, vibrates, transmits it straight into the shell of the earmuff, and you get weird ringing noises. It's not really noisy as in damaging levels of noise, but it's annoying and it forces you into a slightly weird position. And I suppose if it got bad enough, you'd be pushing the actual hearing protection off your ear anyway. So I've had custom molded earplugs for many years. I really like them, I really rate them. Thomas at Acoustics did some ear molds. I go in there once a year now, get my hearing tested, get the wax cleared out of my ears, which is a horror story of its own. And get these custom molds, and they're not cheap, but then it's my hearing. I don't get it back if I damage it, so I'm going to look after it. But yeah, I was keen to check these out because these fit into a gap between I can get custom molded in-ears with active protection as well, but we're probably over the $1,000 mark. I just checked recently, these are sitting on some place for about 350 bucks. So they're certainly more expensive than the foamies, but they do quite a different job as well. So yeah, it's just sort of a nice, interesting middle ground between full custom actives and non-active, basically. So yeah, in use, I've used them a bit, used them on the range. I've actually gone for a couple of hunts with them, not successful, but I can't blame that on the earplugs, because I sort of thought there was two uses. One, there's use on the range, and they work great on the range. You know, you can have conversations with people nice and easy because the levels are getting, the volume or the conversation is still getting amplified and fed into your ears. And then when it gets noisy, the amplification basically shuts or cuts down, and you've just got hearing protection going on. So it clamps down, it sort of compresses sound, I suppose, coming into your ear, or limits sound coming into your ear in a more correct audio engineering term, I suppose. But yeah, you can still hear conversations, details, bits and pieces that you can sometimes miss just with the full only blocking passive system. The one thing I did have a play with is that this unit comes with, well, first of all, it comes in this cool little case, and what's extra cool about this case is it's actually the charging unit. So you just plug the USB into the side of it, they go in there and it charges like that, so that's very cool. But the other part of it as well is they come with 4 different sets of plugs, and I originally started with the foam plugs and rolled them up and jammed them in there, and wasn't quite sold on that, so went to the medium, and I've now actually gone down to the small plugs, the smallest plugs that they have. And one thing I think is very important with these, which is one where it varies to me quite differently from my molds, is that my molded earplugs, when you put them in the ear, they're a tight fit and they feel like they're kind of puncturing up into your brain, but there's a full seal on it. And Thomas has got the gear that he will actually put the plugs into your ear. He's got a doodacky that goes into a measuring system, and he can run a sound through it and actually measure the seal and see how much, how well your ear canals are being sealed against external sound. These, like the foam earplugs, which I have seen so many people put those things in incorrectly, where they're not really doing as much work as they should, are quite, if you're not aware of how to actually set these things in and put them properly into your ear, you can sit them just on the outside of the ear canal and they're not working as efficiently, so they're not protecting your hearing as much as they should, and could give you a false sense of confidence because you're like, oh, I've got hearing protection and it'll be good. But like those foam plugs where you see them hanging more out of people's ear rather than in, because they just kind of haven't rolled them, they've just jammed them in the ear, you know, it could give you a false sense of confidence that you're doing actually protecting your hearing when you're not, you're still damaging it. So important with these, I'd be tempted to start with the smallest plug. Put them in your ear, do the proper jamming them up and into your ear canal, you know, figuring out everyone's ear canal shape is different, so figuring out how they actually need to fit up in there. And they will be snug and they will be almost uncomfortable for the first 30 seconds, and then you'll get used to them and you will pretty much forget they're there, except for the fact that they're occasionally amplifying the sound. And they've got a button on the side of them, which is quite cool, and you can just rotate through on, off, well, on and different levels of attenuation or amplification is probably a better way of looking at it. You boost the volume on it and then off again, and you can roll through those through to a level I find too loud. It's like louder than normal, and that's over the top for me, versus quieter than normal, just amplifying through to somewhere similar with not wearing them. So yeah, so very cool. Now, one downside I have found with them in use has been in windy situations, because it picks up the wind sounds and you just get whistling in your ears, and particularly if you've got it amplifying and everything, it just accentuates the wind in your head, and very quickly, for me at least, gets annoying, and I just turn them off and just use them as normal hearing protection, and they work perfectly fine, even off, battery dead, whatever, worked great. It's just hearing protection. But in windy environments, on top of a ridge line, on an open range where there's a bit of wind howling through, it's a bit of a pain, and I found it hard to have a conversation with somebody because the wind was just being boosted up to a level that I just couldn't differentiate between the two. So yeah, not so good in windy environments. But on the flip side, where they're kind of interesting, is for hunting. And it's a weird thing, because I go hunting and I don't really want hearing protection or anything, because I have in my head I want to hear everything and be aware of my environment going on. Well, these accentuate all the sounds going on around you, so you hear all the birds more, you hear all the insects more. And to be honest, I haven't got close enough to an animal with these to hear if I can hear the deer chewing or moving, but the theory would be you're actually going to have sort of, you know, superhuman hearing of what's going on as well. So I can see the benefit of them. And the additional benefit is with these, if you're hunting with them and wearing them just as a matter of fact, that if you got all excited, decided to take a shot at an animal, and you got a bit of buck fever and everything else is going on, and you're busy identifying your target beyond all doubt and checking, you know, your cone of fire and what's going on behind the target, all these other things, that you may forget to put your hearing protection in. Suppressor is one thing, but for guys who are mountain hunting or stuff like that where they're running brakes, a shot through a braked rifle, I don't care whether it goes away in 30 seconds or 5 minutes, it's your brain sorting out the noise in your hearing, not your hearing returning to normal. There's permanent damage going on there. So at least with these, you are likely already wearing them, and you're away basically. So yeah, just be aware, wind, however, very useful, and it may just mean that it's a pair of in-ears that you're actually wearing when you take that shot, and that could make all the difference. Alright guys, see you later.